What is a Logan? You probably know who a Logan is, for better or for worse, but all names come from somewhere, and this name comes from Cornwall. And yes, this has to do with rocks, but it's also other things. A Logan stone or rocking stone is a large boulder, usually created by erosion, that as you can see rests fairly precariously on one or two very small points. They're unique in that they can usually easily be rocked with just a little bit of pressure, rocked back and forth like a rocking chair, but if you actually tried to move them, you'd have a lot of difficulty. Think of it like a 90-ton weeble. Do they still make weebles? Some of them are man-made, but a lot of them form naturally, especially in places like Scotland, Cornwall, and Wales, although they are formed all over the world. The most famous one, the OG if you will, is simply known as the Logan Rock, and it's in Cornwall. It's perched on a cliff overlooking the ocean, and it's been there as long as anyone can remember. People would come from far and wide to see this stone, because despite weighing 80 tons, it could have easily been rocked by a small child. Legend had it that in spite of this, no man could ever move it. But all good things must come to an end, and in 1824, the Royal Navy said, "Wanna bet?" So on the day the HMS Nimble sailed into town, the crew decided they had to prove how strong they were by pushing a rock off a cliff. But of course it couldn't be just any rock. Still took a dozen men with tools to do it, but they did manage to shove the whole thing off the cliff, and it fell into kind of a crevasse. This, understandably, upset the locals a lot. So much so that they complained to the British Admiralty to the point where they had to do something. If you can't control your seamen, you have to take responsibility for what happens. So the Lords of the Admiralty commanded them to put the rock back. But need I remind you, again, this rock weighs 80 tons, and we had yet to invent the backhoe, at least as we know it. It took 60 men, 13 pulleys, and months of effort. But eventually, they did manage to haul it back up the cliff and put it back in such a way that it would rock. However, it's never been quite the same. And really, with the expense, there were no winners in this situation. Because yes, even to this day, it does rock, but it's just, the movement's not the same. It's a real shame. It's just sad. I mean, doesn't it just suck when you have a good thing going that everyone can agree is, you know, kind of unusual but great, really loved, and then somebody has to come along and just mess it up? We're all out here just trying to have a good time, and then you come along and